Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Sophia the healer.
How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Hold on, let me put this somewhere where I can't hear it. I'm trying to uh record and talk at the same time so I don't have to do this 10,000 times like I normally do in order to post it online. So we'll see how well this goes. Hopefully you can't hear it.
Awesome. No, no, I can't.
Okay, good. All right. So we are here to talk about the snake year midpoint. We are just getting into the fire of the wood snake, and they're all ready for the fire of the fire horse, which is not here yet, and it's quite amazing to watch the mental gymnastics. A lot of spiritualists are going through trying to explain this energy as a horse energy. It's quite fascinating, I guess, but terrifying in other ways,
Yeah,
for
they're
sure.
just trying to fit the pieces of the puzzle that I mean they're trying to fit horse energy into everything now. That's what
Right,
it seems like they're trying to do. So like any excuse to say, "Oh, see, it's the horse energy." That's what they're doing. And and I think it's interesting because, I mean, I don't blame them, of course, because if that's what
right,
they're told to do, that's what they're gonna do. Um, who who are who are they to then decide, "Hey, let me listen to these weirdos over here that are
right,
saying like, oh no, by the way, it's still a snake here."
right,
It's too much of a risk, specifically a social risk. But then beyond the social risk is also for a lot of these spiritualists, it's a financial destruction, basically,
right,
because if if you have a spiritualist of any sort saying, "Oh no, actually, it's still a snake here," their business is probably temporarily going to go down.
right, because people want to hear what confirms their bias, and bias confirmation is really, really um, one of the main probable issues that's going to be coming up for humanity because you can't just listen to things that confirm your biases. You have to really ask the questions. And those people who ask the questions will get answers. There's just a lot of people who aren't even bothering to ask.
Yeah, so I think to start, maybe it'd be good for you to explain why we're at a midpoint, because obviously I think the people that are going to listen to this, like they are under the impression, I would imagine, a lot of them, that we are indeed in a horse year, and it actually just started. So maybe if you can just explain your thesis and why you believe that uh, the the new year begins in August, September, as opposed to February.
All right, so this is about 2.5 years or 3 years worth of research, just asking the question, very simple question of what day is it? Like, what is today? What year is it? Like, where are we in time? Like, and where are we in relation to events that obviously happened in the Bible, which is what I correspond things with. So, in just exploring this, like, what day is it question, the first place I started was well, not the first place, but specifically talking about the Chinese zodiac year. I had done a lot of research about the Chinese Empire, and I was under the understanding that obviously the original Chinese Empire was black people, Genghis Khan was black, and all of that. So I had heard these things, but I figured if it was true, it would be difficult to prove that it was true from the perspective of looking at the history that they give us, and that I would have to figure out if it was true, it would be coded in a way that I could figure out. Like there would be some other layer of coding in the knowledge that only someone who has my bloodline would understand it. And so, um, one of the things that I focused in on was the in the beginning in the Bible itself talks about the night and the day was the first day, or the day and the night was the first day. And so starting from that point of day, or the evening and then the morning was the first day, right? It's the evening. So that means the day started with the morning and then the evening and then the morning. So that would be the whole cycle: morning, evening, morning. This was the cycle of the universe even before there was the sun and the moon. There was morning, there was evening, and there was morning. So what is morning? Like, what is actually constitutes as the morning? Well, if you've seen as many sunrises on the beach as I have, you clearly see that when the morning comes, there's darkness and then there's light. Like, that's the basic of what it is. There's darkness on the ground and then all of a sudden everything is light, and it happens pretty swiftly. And then you go from the sun being sort of like on the horizon to the midday where it's in the middle of the day, and then you have the evening when the sun is going away, and then you have the dark of night where you don't see the sun. So it's important to understand that this is the natural flow of the day. When the sun rises, that starts the day. So beyond the calendar situation, I start all of my days when I'm doing calculations, looking at the astrology for the day with the morning, which is 6 a.m. So all of my days start at 6 a.m. So if you're familiar with Solomon's tables and all of that, like, they tell you all the different hours. He starts them all over the place. Not he starts them, I'm sorry. The people who interpreted his work start them all over the place because they don't understand the morning and then the evening and then the morning, and that's the whole day. And so if we're starting from light, like, our so that means our days start with light. Our days do not start in darkness. Now in the Bible, they talk about days, they talk about months, they talk about years, they talk about a lot of stuff. um but one thing that I decoded from the Bible is that one of the cycles they're talking about is full moon, new moon, full moon. And usually they describe it in Revelations, it's often like a day. Like, sometimes it's a month, but most of the time it's a day. And when they say a day, they mean a full moon, and then a new moon, and then another full moon in the same sign. That's the cycle that they look at. So if that's how it's described all over the Bible, and things add up when you use that particular formula, I took that formula and I applied it to the Chinese calendar, because when I was looking to see why the Chinese calculated their calendar the way they did. Now, mind you, I'm giving you all of this background, what I looked into, what my references were, all of that, everything that's found in nature. I went to see what the Chinese did, and their explanation for the Lunar New Year was astounding, and not in a good way. It's literally, the Lunar New Year is the first new moon in February, the calendar month of February. And I was like, that is completely arbitrary, because how are the ancient Chinese following the Gregorian calendar? I'm trying to understand, like, where, like, people just accept this, like, they don't even think. The Gregorian calendar didn't even come about until the 1400s. So how do you calculate your new year with a calendar that started like in the 1500s? That doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no explaining that. So I said, okay, well, obviously, now there is a new year that starts in February. It's just not that one. And we could talk about that later. But there's no explaining why they start their Lunar New Year in February. They literally pick the first new moon in February. It could be Aquarius, it could be Pisces. It's not even consistent. It's just in the calendar month of February. So I was like, okay, all jokes aside, that can't be correct. Like, there February wasn't even a month until the 1400s. So, like, stop playing with me. This doesn't make any sense. So I just had to throw that away and I had to start investigating what makes sense. Like, what is the thing that actually makes sense? And so, um, as I have been following the cycles, okay, because I have been following these cycles, the new moons and the full moons, for a full year. I did new moon and full moon rituals every single new moon and full moon. And getting in sync with that cycle is what helped me to understand this. So, this is not something I read in a book, I got from somebody else. Anybody even knows what I'm talking about? No, this is from doing the work of a new moon ritual and a full moon ritual with the spirit intelligences that are assigned, spirit intelligences, as in the ones in Franz Bardon's book, which is Invocation of Ceremonial Magic. He has spirit intelligences assigned with every single degree of the zodiac. So I literally would do the work, put out the videos. You can see them all. Some of them are open on my channel and some of them are not open. But if you go to my channel, you'll see like this. I did this for a whole year. And then after a year, I was like, okay, so what was I supposed to learn from this process? Because these videos were very difficult to put together. They were long, they were complicated. There was a lot of different stuff going on. But what I learned is that um most astrologers start a cycle with the new moon, and the new moon is in the darkness. So they start their cycles at night, which the darkness is, a new moon is when the moon is overshadowed by the sun. It's basically there's no, like, the moon is overshadowed by the sun, so there's no reflection. But a full moon is when the moon reflects the sun, okay? And so most astrologers do their assessments of this cycle starting in darkness. Well, I'm not a child of the darkness. I mean, we know the pointy-hatted people over there in that country that's trying to start a whole nother war. Those are the people who are the children of the darkness. Okay, I'm a child of light, so that means I have to start my cycle with the light. So instead of starting it with the, random whatever new moon that happens in February, I was like, okay, so where does this cycle start? This still begs the question, because the Aries full moon obviously would be um the a point in the cycle we're trying to isolate for purposes of figuring out where the year starts. But the Aries season starts the day after the Pisces season. Like, the day Pisces season is over, Aries season starts, even if we still have degrees of Pisces left. Okay. So basically, what I'm saying is, I start the cycle the day after the Pisces full moon. Why? The moon is still in its full power. The sun is in its full power. Okay. And those days between the day after the Pisces full moon and the day of the Aries full moon is Aries season. And people describe this with the dark moons too, but for sure with the light moons, that's how it goes. Like, you can't pick some arbitrary point to start your cycle when you have to start the cycle in the light. And so people don't start their cycles in the light. People are children of darkness. They want to start their cycles in darkness. So all of the astrologers, everyone who's doing this, is interpreting this from the position of darkness to darkness. Now, if you want to be in the darkness, which is not a good place to be, right? If you want to be in the darkness, that is perfectly fine with you. However, like I said, I'm a child of the light, and so I start the cycle from the day after the Pisces full moon till the day of the Aries full moon. That is, to me, Aries season. So that very day after the Pisces full moon is where the season starts. Now, something amazing happened when I put that into this particular context. And what happened is, a lot of things started to line up on the calendar that don't line up otherwise. For example, in the Orthodox Church, we start our liturgical year on September the 1st. Well, this cycle almost starts very, very closely to September the 1st, which is a liturgical year. And the liturgical year is all about the monetary year. And so people who have monetary success, secretly, they start their year in September. The government does this. This is why the government budgets always go until September the 30th. The government budgets end on September the 30th. That's why if they don't get all the bills passed to fund all the departments in the government, October 1st there's a shutdown. Anybody ever notice that? Like, if it was true what I was saying, you would see reflections in this in many different things. That's just two major things at that. This cycle is reflected in many things, like the start of the harvest, and like you would start your cycle with harvesting. You yourself, like, this another way that I put this. We are not the ones who plant what we harvest. In the story of the wicked slaves, the parable of the talents, one version of the parable of the talents, because there's three different versions. Um, one of the versions of the parable of the talent says that the one slave or whoever that decided not to do anything with his coins that he was given, his talents he was given, he said of the overseer, basically, you reap what you have not sown. You do what you take what is not yours. This is what he said to him. And the overseer said to him, if you knew that's how I was, then why didn't you take the money to the money changers or to the bank? At least I could have got some interest if you know that's how I am. And so Jesus telling that story in that context made me think, okay, so the overseer didn't get in trouble. It was the person who was given the talent and didn't use it that was cast into the outer darkness. So that was just like another one of these like hidden messages, like, okay, so it's okay to reap what you have not sown. Okay, so when you start your year in with the Pisces, the day after the Pisces full moon, you are reaping what you did not sow, because your year is starting. The books are closed on the previous year at the Pisces full moon. The books are closed for the year, and the day after, the new books open. That means whatever you reap in that season, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, full moons, that's you reaping what you didn't sow. And so if that was okay, like it was perfectly fine for Jesus to use in the parable to make his point about the people, people who have talents and don't use them. That sounds like it's good enough for me. I want to be the rich overseer who reaps what I don't sow, who has money to give away to my subjects and go out. That's the character I want to be in that story. I don't want to be the one who's given the talents, sent out to work like a good slave. I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person who is the king who gets to cast these peasants into the outer darkness. And so the people who follow the cycle the way I describe it are the ones who are the kings. The kings follow this cycle. I mean, it's, again, the Orthodox Church starts our ecclesiastical year September the 1st. The government starts their fiscal year September the 1st. So if it's good enough for the church and it's good enough for the government, it's good enough for me. They just don't tell you why they do it. Now, of course, there's someone on payroll who understands these things, but this knowledge was basically just hidden from the public. And of course, if you went to the church, if you followed the government calendar, you were more successful. I'm from a place, Prince George's County, Maryland, where it's like the most black people who are millionaires, who work for the government, who do government contracting. It's the richest black county in America. Just so happens to be most of the people work for the government. That's not a coincidence. We follow the schedule of the government. If you follow the government schedule, you're going to be successful. That's really like how it works. So without even knowing it, if you follow the schedule of the government, which if you're a government worker, you naturally would, you're naturally going to be more successful than other people. And so these are, well hidden but quite public secrets that everybody knows but the poor people. And if you want to be a peasant for the rest of your life, that's perfectly fine. But we kings over here. And so we follow the schedule of the kings, of the high churches, and of the government. And so anybody got a question with that, they could take it up with their God, because our God, this is what he gave us. So let me mention the new year that starts in February. So there is a cycle called the Zolkin cycle, which if you follow the modern interpretation of the Zolkin cycle, which was pioneered by Jose Arguelles, can't pronounce his name. He has the day out of time being July the 25th. And of course, obviously, I don't think that's a day out of time. He was given some very wrong information. Now, I do believe his wife had the correct information, but I think they just kept it to themselves. So they thought if they changed it, it wouldn't matter. Nobody would figure it out, whatever. So again, another cycle I had to backdate. Now, the first thing I did with that cycle, the Zolkin cycle, was go and look and see what the Mayan quote unquote people, how they were calculating it and what stars they were using and all of that, because every calendar cycle has a star or something that's associated with it. And these people said this cycle has nothing to do with the stars. So I had to throw their stuff out too, because every single cycle, every single calendrical cycle we have is dealing with a star. The Gregorian year is aligned with the rise of Sirius in the sky. January the 1st is the first day that you can see Sirius in the sky. It's hellectical, something like that. It's rising in the sky. That is literally January the 1st. So every good calendar has some sort of association with the actual cycle. So I had been saying that February 6th was the day out of time, because that's the day that um, on the ascendant, which is the rising, we're at 25 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn being Saturn, Saturn being obviously, the ruler of time in general. So that was what I was saying. However, after this February, um, I realized that there was a change in the timeline. There was an adjustment in the timeline. And so now January 31st is our day out of time, and February the 1st is the first day of the Zolkin year. So I have to update all my calendars with this information. I haven't obviously talked about it yet, because it's very difficult when make a prediction, you give out a whole timeline, you're telling people it's one way or another, and then all of a sudden, like, you get the sinking feeling that things are changing, and that's one of the things that change. And so I do believe that it was correct in previous cycles, but again, the Bible says that the Lord will shorten the time. If he didn't shorten the time, we would all perish. And so that's what I think happened. Like, the last cycle just got a little bit shortened. It's a wobble. So that's another thing about all of these cycles that no spiritualist will tell you, no spiritualist understands. All of them are totally and completely wrong. There's a wobble, okay? The earth is on a wobble. It is not a perfect sphere perfectly spinning precisely every single day, day in and day out. There is a wobble, and there's a wobble, okay? Black women wobble when we walk, okay? And so there's a wobble. And so if you are like determined to have hard and fast rules that never change, then you're going to miss the subtle energy that's like, we might have to speed it up this year, or we might have to slow it down this year. Depends on what's going on. And so that's what this is like all about. Things will change as things change. Like, you have to be um in communion with the universe to know when they're slightly changing, making adjustments to the cycle to better to provide more comfort for humanity. And there's things, it just happens sometimes. We need more days, we need this, we need that. And the reason why I had to change it is because for the Zolkin cycle, which is the ancient Mayan quote unquote way of telling time, there's a calendar with 13 months, 13 28-day months, totally even, okay? The reason I had to change it is because this February is the first time since 2015 where February is both 28 days and February started on a Sunday. So it's perfect. 4 perfect weeks. 4 perfect calendrical weeks. And because it's 28 days, that means March also has 4 perfect calendrical weeks. and then it moves on, and we have the great eighth day on March the 29th. So February and March together, when it's in its 28-day form, has four perfect calendrical weeks this year. And the last time this happened was 2015, probably right before Trump came down the elevator. Whatever, that may be a coincidence, but probably not. So that's an overview. I don't know what you want me to go into more specifically.
Wow. Yeah, I think that was great. So, so I mean, I okay, I guess because it definitely, I mean, the point of this talk is to go into the snake here, but I think it's important to have a good, well-rounded understanding of why we're talking about the snake year being in the midpoint,
Right.
while everyone is talking about the horse year beginning. And by midpoint, that means that the horse year begins August 31st, right, of this year.
Right. The day after the Pisces full moon. I don't know if it's the 31st or the 30th. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's the day
Okay.
after the Pisces full moon.
So I guess kind of following up what you said about that there's the cycle for the kings, and then there's a cycle for the peasants, or at least like there's this kind of discrepancy in terms of the cycle. So maybe just if you could give us a glimpse of how, at least for this year, like how this is playing out in terms of the peasants in the middle of the snake year, in the middle of snake energy, being basically like programmed to think that we are in the horse year. Like, how does that play out in terms of the peasants being forced to work in this, in under this energy, while the kings, I guess, continue doing their shedding of the skin.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the actual energies of the year. So this will be the easiest way I can explain it. So whenever I'm looking at anybody's astrological explanations of anything, especially ancient ones, I'm looking at the animals that they're talking about. Okay. Everybody uses animals to describe everything. If they're not talking about animals, they're talking about plants. So I look for the plant, I look for the animal. Okay. This is basic research any spiritualist could do. None of them have ever thought of doing this because when you ask the questions, they're just like, oh, well, uh, it's a wood snake. Well, what is a wood snake? What does that mean exactly? Like, is there an actual wood snake that's called a wood snake? I did a Google search, okay? There's a wood snake. Wouldn't you know there's an actual wood snake? And where's the wood snake located? The wood snake, I won't go into the details. We can talk about it later, but this wood snake can only be found in tropical regions. Okay? Tropical regions as in Florida, the Caribbean islands, and South America. This is where you find the actual wood snake. So, pause. Why would the Chinese be referring to a wood snake for a year when, in fact, they don't even have this animal in China? There's no wood snake in China. It's not in China. So how do they even get this information? That's my first clue that it's not their information. Now, we do thank the Chinese for preserving the information. They have done an excellent job at preserving the knowledge that they do have, which I am greatly appreciative of. However, it's not their knowledge. They didn't create it. And most of them who actually study this will tell you that they don't know where it came from. It came from some alien in the sky or something like that. Like all of them tell you the truth, but there are too many people who don't want to look into the truth. So let's talk a little bit about this wood snake. It is a snake. The actual snake itself has a very unusual defense mechanism. What it does is it bleeds out from the mouth and from the eyes so that it can, if the blood gets on something that's trying to attack it, it will poison them. Okay, so the wood snake specifically bleeds out from the eyes and from the mouth to poison its enemies. Now, we have an example of this in the Bible because when Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane, he bled out from the eyes. And so that tells me that more than likely the year that the actual crucifixion happened was in the year of the wood snake, because that detail doesn't make any sense. It's completely random, and why would you need to include it? So the Bible has all kinds of little details like this, that if you slow down when you're reading the Bible and ask questions about what you just read, you can figure these things out. So this year in particular is probably the same year that Jesus was crucified, because he went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and right after the Garden of Gethsemane, that's when they had the Last Supper. So that's how I put these stories together, through common sense observation of this of the phenomena. Okay. So let's talk a little about the fire horse. So I looked up the fire horse, and there are red horses. They're called chestnut horses, and the fire horse is the most common horse found on the planet. It'll go from dark brown to light reddish brown. It is the most common horse on the planet, right? Everybody's seen this horse. So how does this work for the elites who are using the true calendars, and the peasants who aren't? Okay, if you are in the year of the very rare, very tropical, right? Very rare, very tropical wood snake, what would you be doing that year? You would be focusing on the rare things like rare earth minerals, and you'd be focusing on the tropical things like Cuba, like Venezuela, okay? Now, if you were a peasant, you would be focused on the common things, right? Because now, oh, they told you it was horse year, and you better get out on them roads and work like a dog, like a horse. Just run and run and run. And not a special horse either, a common horse. Not go into your blessing, go into your time, go into your greatness. No, 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 no. Go back to work, get you a job, and that's how you're going to, become successful. Go back to the things that you came out of that made you the same as everyone else. Forget all that special stuff. No, 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 no vacations to the islands. No, you can't afford that. Just run. So that's what they would do. They would have and they do this every year, because every year it's like this. They're telling you, like last year, what it was in February, they were telling you, no, you American people, y'all are special. There's no kings around here. All this crazy stuff, trying to gas these people up, making them feel like it's some kind of tropical paradise. They lit California on fire, all kinds of stuff. Now what? You get to this time of year when we're midway through the time when you're supposed to be leaning into what makes you unique and special, and here these people are getting ready to run. Well, you missed half the year. You got a whole half of the year to determine what that thing is that makes you special, and instead of doing that, you already out here running. And so that's how the practical way of what they do to people with this knowledge. Every year, forever, they've been doing this.
Yeah. Wow. That's and it's I mean, definitely as you start to go deeper into um just like why would they do this, it begins to become very clear in terms of if you've been told you're a specific animal, your specific energy, and you're not actually that energy. So I mean there's two things that compound. One is right now when you're in the peak of the snake, which we're going to get into, the peak of your snake energy, the peak of the snake year, and then they're now telling you in the peak of it, when you're finally getting into it, when you're finally beginning to understand what the snake energy is about and shedding the skin and all sorts of stuff that the snake represents, now they're getting you to get up and go crazy, go wild, just
Right,
start galloping like crazy. And on top of that, if your birthday basically is before September, more or less, like they've told you you're an animal that you're not.
right,
And so, and I think a good example is you have pigs being told they're rats.
right,
So you have these people that are pigs in nature, which are very bubbly, they love comfort and joy, family, that type of vibe, being convinced to be rats, which are supposedly like strategic.
Right.
They're kind of conniving, like they're deceiving on the low side. But so it's like they're doing like a double whammy in terms of convincing you of an energy that you are not, which is actually an energy that is almost imprisoning oneself from truly tapping into our potential. And then on top of that, they for 6 months they just like distort the energy in terms of that you're living. And so as you were saying, this is what they want the peasants to be in. They don't want the peasants to flow with this type of energy. They want them stuck in believing that there's something that they're not. And whether you believe in the zodiac calendar or not, that's irrelevant,
Right.
because it's almost like the system imprints the collective energy onto us. So we don't even need to be aware of that where this animal or that animal. It's like the projections of the system is placed upon us, which forces us to basically play out this system. So I think this is a very big deal. I think what we're doing right now. One, the fact that you have discovered this is a massive deal. But I think the fact that we are consciously as a group, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, the amount really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But the fact that we are as a group deciding, hey, this makes more sense just logically. I don't need to understand the stars, the planets. I don't need to read books. Like logically, this makes the most sense. Because right now, I don't feel horse energy. There is zero horse, and everyone's saying horse, 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 horse. All I'm feeling and hearing is keep going within.
Right.
Keep shedding the skin, keep move strategically. The snake moves strategically. The snake is not just you know moving around haphazardly. No, the snake is very calculated. It's very cold. It observes everything. It feels everything. So what I've noticed is, especially with the midpoint energy. So we're 6 months in. We're getting an understanding of what it means to be a snake.
Right.
And so when we get an understanding of what it means to be a snake, what I feel is we have identified our prey. We've been laying low, assessing the land, observing, maneuvering ourselves to be perfectly positioned where we're supposed to be positioned. Now we have identified the prey. And that's when the quote unquote elite, whoever's behind this, that's when they're like, no, 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 you can't see the prey. Now they're like, now gallop,
Right.
like show yourself, show
Right.
the prey that you're there. So, and who's the prey? I think the prey is the elite.
Yeah.
The prey is these quote unquote powerful people that convinced us that they are powerful. Meanwhile, we have identified them.
Right.
And we're not going to move from this. If I have identified my prey, why would I make myself known?
That would
there's
be
no
ridiculous.
there's no reason, right? There's no reason. And that's what they've been basically doing for all this time. Is This was a very significant safeguard that they had to basically make it so that even if someone wanted to rebel or launch some sort of revolution, that they would the revolutionaries would be outed. They would be known energetically, they would be neutered because they wouldn't be in sync. But now that we're moving in sync now, we've identified the prey, and now the prey, and you could see it. You could literally see these elites, like they don't know what to do. Like they're trying to throw every distraction in the book. And it's like, you're not leaving my grip. I see where you're at. And when you least expect it, the wood snake is gonna, well, I guess it would be interesting to go deeper into specifically how this wood snake kind of gets its prey. And
Okay, well, we could talk. I found it. I pulled it up. So let's talk about what this snake is. It's called the Tropidophis, Tropidophis. And it's called also known as the Caribbean dwarf boas. wood snakes or West Indian wood snakes. It's a genus of dwarf boas endemic to the West Indies and South America. Currently, either 17 or 33 species are recognized, depending on the habitat, which is insane. Adults grow between 30 and 60 centimeters, which is 12 to 24 inches in total length, including the tail. They are secretive and predominantly terrestrial, found in a variety of natural habitats, including rainforests, swamps, pine woods, and scrub, as well as in the vicinity of human habitation, that have an interesting defensive habit of auto-hemorrhaging from the mouth, nostrils, and eyes when disturbed. Some species also change color over the course of the day. So that whole auto-hemorrhaging thing, this is what they're trying to force us to do. They know this is what this snake does, right? Like it when it gets disturbed, it starts foaming at the mouth with this blood. So that's what they want us to do. They want us to be so disturbed that we give away our position, because that's what they're talking about. And if you think about the story of Jesus in the Bible when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, the reason why he started bleeding from the eyes is because he was asking God not to let the thing happen the way that it was getting ready to happen. He was like, can we just not do this? And so the literal sins of the world were being cast onto him. That is the reason why he started bleeding from the eyes. And it's a some kind of a thing that they talk about um in ways. So it's crazy. Let me see. Trying to see if they have one about their um how they actually hunt. I don't see anything yet because I didn't think about it from that position, but I saw something that said they normally eat frogs and lizards, and they're very difficult to keep in captivity. So they're not the kind of snakes that you keep in captivity. And like I said, what is the fire horse? The fire horse is the most common horse on the planet. It is definitely a horse that you keep in captivity. 100%. And so you're talking about taking something that's not supposed to be held captive and put it in a box, which is not supposed to be in, which is totally insane. Yeah, reptiles, lizards, frogs, reptiles, birds, and rodents. That's normally what it eats. It's still not telling me how it hunts them. Well, it's a boa. So boas typically you know, they constrict,
Constrict?
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
constrict. I think dwarf boa species. Let's see. Let me see if it talks about it a little bit
Yeah, it
more.
says capture usually involves a quick strike to seize the prey with its mouth teeth, subduing it with mild envenomation,
Yeah,
or
that would be
simply
the bud.
swallowing alive if small enough. They lack powerful constriction or potent fang venom, so they target easy small prey and swallow it whole after a brief struggle.
Wow.
So I think, at least what I'm seeing, this is not like the viper or
No.
a python where it's like this massive, massive snake. This is really, and I think it makes a lot of sense, especially the fact that we're talking about this now, where it's like it's biding the time. Like
Right.
it's eating the small things, the lizards, the frogs. Like this is not the time to go big. This is the
Mhm.
time to to
Low hanging fruit. That was what it makes me think of.
mm,
The low hanging fruit. Like get the stuff that's easy, wrap
uh-huh.
up the stuff that you already started, the things you already have your heels in. Like now is the time for that kind of energy, not for the energy of okay, I'm starting to run, and I'm gonna do all these new ideas and all these new things, and it's all gonna work right now. Like no, that is first of all. Saturn is in Aries. Like just to talk about the astrology for a minute, Saturn is in Aries, and Saturn it does not like Aries because Aries is fast moving energy. Aries is get the job done, go ahead. It's the willpower. Really, Aries is related to Athena, but so it's a strategic battle, right? And Saturn is like, whoa, hold up. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still trying to figure out what you got going on here. Like, I've got to take an inventory. I've got to figure out the organization. I've got to put the patterns together. Like, we're not ready to start running yet. So it's actually like egregious to tell people to start running now when you got Saturn, Aries. Yeah, Neptune is in Aries too, but Neptune is a much further away planet and it does affect people, but Saturn affects you on your day to day. And so if Saturn is in Aries, a place that is not comfortable, and you think you're going to run when Saturn is like, we got to figure out what's going on in your life first before you start running anything. When in fact, by the end of August, when we go into actual horse year, that'll be the time to run because that's enough time for Saturn to evaluate the situation and come up with a plan. People are starting to run with no plan. They're like wild horses at that, which makes it even worse. They don't even want to be
No,
domesticated
literally,
horses. They want to be
that's
wild
how I
horses.
that's how I feel with all of these spiritualists, especially pushing the whole horse here, horse here, horse here. I it's like, guys, like, we haven't even shed the skin yet. Like, we're just getting in the thick of, like, really shedding that that kind of that aspects of ourselves. And everyone's like, "Yeah, horse here, let's go, let's go, let's go." And I'm
Right,
like, that no one I don't feel anyone has a strategy. I think right now they're just like throwing shit on the wall and thinking like, this is me building momentum. And
right,
and
right.
it's very interesting that, like, and again, like, this is not known. At least definitely not known to the public.
No,
This is not like a it's not even a I wouldn't even say it's not even known enough to be some sort of fringe idea.
there's
No
not.
one discusses this. No one knows about this. So the fact that, like, we are making this known and specifically, like, investing energetically very heavily in this narrative, because this is a narrative, this is a very important narrative that needs to be put out there. The fact that
Right,
we're doing it now in a snake horse year is big because you can blatantly see the difference. It's not like,
right,
maybe dragon snake, you can kind of, fudge the numbers basically.
right,
But
right,
a snake moves very differently than a horse. And I think it's going to become very obvious to the spiritualists, especially the ones that are kind of revolving and hovering in our vicinity. But I think it's just going to become clear for everyone that, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's
right.
everything's pointing to, like, keep going deeper into the snake energy. And it's like, where's the horse energy? Because you could feel the difference if it was like the energies between the snake and the horse are vastly different. And
Yes.
we are, what, 3 days into the supposed horse year, and the last 3 days has, I've been sleeping more than I was the last week, the last two, like, it's not, I don't feel the horse.
No. Mm-mm. No. And that's really like my problem with the whole thing. I didn't come through this by commanding the energy. I didn't say, okay, we're children of the light, and so we're going to make this be the light. That doesn't make any sense. Like, just find the light and align yourself with the light. But we have to, accept and acknowledge that there are a lot of people who are children of the dark and who are children of these ancient people who hated the light. And so because they want to spend most of their time in the dark. So this is the difference between starting your cycle with the full moon and starting your cycle with the new moon. If you start your cycle with the new moons are very private. I did a video about this on my astrology channel, which is Daylight Astrology on YouTube. There is, when you're in the dark moons, that's really when the moon doesn't have any power. It's completely taken over by the sun. It's literally blocked out, literally, by the sun. And so if you start your cycle from a place of, I don't know where I end and you begin, which is a very personal, sexual place, then your cycles are going to be all personal and sexual. Like that's a very intimate position to be like, I don't know where I end and you begin, and everything is cast into darkness. That's very, very personal and highly sexual. So yeah, you're gonna have people who are very, very personal and highly sexual, which is like a unintended byproduct. So then they gave people like drugs to even out the fact that they were into this very like personal sexual energy. And so it's like, no, this doesn't make any sense. But there are people who believe that is literally like somehow that starts a cycle. And maybe it does start a cycle, but really it's a the way I describe it on my channel is like this. The full moon, let's say the sun obviously is the feminine energy and the moon is the masculine energy. At the full moon, the sun is in its full power and the moon is in its full power. And they're having a conversation. They're like, well, do you think you like me? Do you think we should move forward? We keep talking or whatever. And then as you go through the lunation, you get the new moon. And that's when you decide, okay, I like this person. I'm willing to invest some time and energy into them. I want to spend time with them. So then you go into this very personal sexual energy. And then you come back out to the full moon, where after having been in this very personal sexual position, you go back to being the same person. You don't turn into a new person because now you've been in this intimate relationship with this person. But look at how many people do this. Look at how many people meet somebody, they totally lose themselves. They no longer have any remnant of who they used to be. They totally, completely lose themselves, and they literally um have no like they don't even hold on to who they used to be. And then when you see them, you're like, dang, who is this person? You're totally different. They do this all the time. It's very sad on one hand, but it's very aggravating on another hand, especially if you're a person who, hey, I'm always going to stand 10 toes down in my power. I'm not going to be standing in the middle of like somebody else's power, or like I'm not going to lose myself so much as someone else's power that I don't maintain my own power. But that's what they want you to do. So in the midst of all of this, you're sacrificing that one talent that you have to them. You're giving it over to them and say, yes, if you just take this one talent I have, you'll make me like you. And it's like, what in the world? Like, what story have you heard that is how it happens? It never happens like that in any reasonable story. Like no fairy tales where the princess, like they always talk about the princesses in the fairy tales, right? Oh, the fairy tale princesses are so unnormal. They start out as a princess. Sometimes they don't start out as a princess, but they start out as this strong, powerful woman. Then they meet the prince and they change, but then they go right back to being that strong, powerful woman. A lot of these men are very triggered by those stories. They say, that's not real. That's not how it works. Women aren't like that. These fairy tale princesses are feminists and all this stuff. It's like, no, actually, a woman actually is the one who always maintains her crown. The men are the one who go into the darkness. It's the men who go into the darkness. They're the ones who enter the portal, not the other way around. This is why it doesn't make sense for the sun to be masculine, because why is a man entering the portal of another man? But that's neither here nor there. Like the men are the ones, the moon is the one who enters the portal of the sun. That's how it works. Has worked for since the beginning of time. But people don't apply the things you can observe with your own eyes to life. I don't know. I don't even have words for it. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, they need your guidance. That's,
Well, all
they
they
need the
gotta do is
healer.
watch the sun.
They need
Yeah, they
all they
need the
need to
healer.
do is watch
But
the
they
sun.
Yeah, just watch the sun. You'll see. It doesn't like the sun come. I was at the beach one time watching the sunrise, and I was like, okay, it's still pretty dark, but like I know the sun should be coming up soon, and then all of a sudden you just see, before you even see the sun. This is it's beautiful to watch. Before you even see the sun, you see the glow from the sun on the horizon, and then as we get closer and closer and closer to sunrise, that glow grows and it grows and it grows and it grows until the sun, like in its beauty, just like peeks out a little bit from the horizon and basically like lightens up the whole sky. So you go from 1 minute like you can see the stars and Orion's belt and the moon and all that stuff, and then like within minutes it feels like you forget that the stars were there because the sun is just like so beautiful and it completely takes over. I mean, this is every day the sun does this. The moon, I mean, not to say bad things about men because I don't do that kind of thing. But men are not like available all the time emotionally. They're not 100% like every day they're going to show up and do the same thing. Men don't operate like that. They have to go, provide the food, do this, do that. They have other stuff they have to do, but the sun always shows up. It's every single day the sun rises. That is how women are. Every day, women get up and make it happen. They provide, the way. And again, not to talk bad about men, because there's a lot of great things that men do, but they don't show up every single day like that. Now, they do show up when they get ready, because that's how the moon is. The moon has a moon rise time, it has a moon set time. And then it's always up all night. Most men are night people, they're up very, very late into the evening. I know my old man is. So, that's fine. Like again, men can work overnight shifts and it doesn't bother them. They can drive all night, do things that women just really can't do. Me, I can get up an hour, 2 hours before the sunrise. But my day is focused around the rising of the sun. It just is like I didn't even do it on purpose. It's just the way that it works out. And most women, especially back in the day, they will tell you that they arrange their day around the rising of the sun. And women don't need the rooster to wake them up. Women are up before the rooster crows. Most of the time, preparing things or whatever. Like unless they're in masculine energy. And there are women who are rightfully in masculine energy, and there's no problem with that. But, if you're a woman in feminine energy, you're going to orient your life around the sun. So, like, if you want to go out on the weekends, you're gonna wait until the sun goes down because while this, like me, I can sleep in the middle of the day. Like most people have a hard time with just like going to sleep in the middle of the day. I could literally, if I get up with the sun in the morning, I could go to sleep in the middle of the day and sleep 6, 7 hours. Wake up when the sun goes down. So my ideal day would be I would wake up at like 4 in the morning, maybe 3 in the morning. And then when it gets close to sunrise, I would go to the beach. Then I would watch the sunrise. I would come back home. I would do work for maybe 1 or 2 more hours, maybe 3 more hours, till about 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock, I would go to sleep. I would wake back up around 7 o'clock, have dinner, and then go out and do something, especially in the summer, especially in Florida, go out and do something until, maybe 12, 1 o'clock, and then go to sleep and be back up at 4. That would be an ideal day for me. Like, ideal. And you have to look at your own body to see what an ideal day would look like for you. So in the winter, my ideal days are different because in the winter, I stay up all day. Because the days are so short that I need to get all the sunlight I can. So in the winter, I'm up and out all day. As long as the sun is up, as long as the sun is out, I'm up and I'm out the whole day. Um, because I want to get as much sun as possible. So it's a little bit different. Also, I'm not going to see the sunrise when the days are short because it's too cold, it doesn't make sense, it's too time consuming, and only when the days are long do I make the effort to go see the sunrise. So last summer, that's what I did. I went almost every day to watch the sunrise, and it was beautiful. And I would be away from the beach by 7 at the latest, 7:30, because by 8 o'clock it'd be too hot. And it's then people start showing up and all of that. So I would get out there about 5:30. 5:30, I could time it just right. I would leave my house at 5. I get to the beach by 5:30 and the sun starts coming up around at the earliest 5:45, 5:40. And then it's over and I sit for a little while longer, and when that sun starts coming up real good, it's time to get away. So you have to give yourself enough space to really like energetically tag onto these energies, tag onto these cycles. And you can't do it if you're too busy trying to command the energy. It's going to be horse year right now. This is what the ancient peoples have said forever. It's like these ancient people didn't know what they was talking about. These people couldn't even write. So you rather listen to somebody who couldn't even write than your human body who is living and intelligent right now that can tune you into the cycles. Come on, bro. Don't make no sense.
Wow. And it's interesting also that the new year or the supposed new year begins basically at the midpoint. Like it's I mean it's you can't make it up. You can't make it up that
No.
like at the midpoint is when they start their new year. Um
Right, because they're basing their cycle off Sirius. So again, like it's the halalical. I can't say that word. It's the rising of Sirius. Okay, January 1st is the rising of Sirius. Is the first day you can see Sirius on the horizon. And so that's what they use to start their calendar. Sirius is a very important star constellation, whatever. But I haven't done a lot of deep diving into it. But I know that's what it is. And the 4th of July, which is America's celebration, that's like basically the last day you can see it on the horizon. After that, it's pretty much gone off the horizon until the new year. So our 4th of July, our celebration of this country is literally the midpoint,
mm,
which is also insane. Again, the 1st of July would be the exact midpoint, so 3 days off. So I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Like the things have to make sense. Like if you don't take into content, into context, the holidays, the different feast days, all like we even have a Hebrew schedule calendar, right? So we follow the Hebrew calendar too. The way you follow the Hebrew calendar though is different. You have to observe the day the sun changes stations in the sky, which is not something you can do without actually observing it. You can't guess it. It's not based on astrology. It's not based on astronomy. No, no, no. It's based on the human being on the ground observing the sun in the middle of the day doing stuff that the sun ain't supposed to do. That is the day the sun changes stations. The sun changes stations 4 times a year. This comes from the book of Enoch. The sun changes station 4 times a year around the solstices and the equinoxes. So the Hebrew year starts. Now, again, these people don't know what they're talking about, so they calculate their year wrong, but they start the year with the equal day and night because Jesus says, are there not 12 hours in a day? Which is, I mean, that is the most generic thing ever. But it's like Enoch said to do it like this. Why not just do what Enoch said? And it's just too much. However, the day of equal parts, that's what it's called, is St. Patrick's Day, which is March 17th. So everything has its place. It's just nobody can put any of this stuff into context. And then you have people like me who can put it into context. If you can put these things into context, you can heal people. If you can't put the time into context, you can't heal anybody because you need to understand the time. This is how Jesus performed his miracles. He would ask the people, when did this happen to you, right? Like, when did you fall ill? And the person would tell him. He could do the math in his head. Okay, if he's this old and he got ill at this time, it was under this lunation, it was under this. Okay, this is what he needs. And then he would uh energetically send the energy to the person to restore their original contract, because most of the reasons why people are sick is that they are out of alignment with their contract. So he would restore their original contract, bring them back into the place where they're supposed to be, and essentially restart their life from where they left off. And that's what like my readings and all my stuff do. We're going to restart your life from where you left off because you got hijacked, you got sidetracked, whatever it is. Let's just get you back on the right track so that you can resume the life, the great life that the creator set up for you, instead of you living a life that someone else projected onto you or used magic to put on you.
yeah, crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's as I said before, like I've never was very into any of the zodiac stuff or but like it's like, okay, this is my birthday and people would say, "Oh, this is your animal." So it's like you and I think this is just very reminiscent of how the system just takes us for a ride. It's like, okay, if I'm
Hmm.
told I'm this and this is when it begins, like, okay, that's that's like that's what I've been
Right.
told. But
Right.
and I think this is why I'm going to be very loud, really leading up to the horse year and probably beyond. But I think these next few months is going to be very important to like solidify this narrative, to really invest in it well, where um it's people deserve to know. They deserve to know that there's not just one way. And I think specifically what we're going to experience um, this year, because this would be my first full year from
Right.
September to the next September, well, August, but my first full year where I am embracing the energy in alignment. And and as I said before, like this is not about we have to know the zodiacs or the animals, but more that it's about, as you said, it's the what was it? The morning, evening, morning cycle. That's really what's important,
Right.
is that we are moving away from the darkness and focusing on embracing a cycle of light. And we don't need a lot of people to follow that. Actually, we just need to do it ourselves individually. Because
Right.
if we start
Right.
moving from the light, it's the dark can't the dark is not able to deceive and bring temptations in the way that it used to before, where we were just kind of blindly believing, well, this is what I've been told is. No, like that's just not. Um, so and I think to continue in this, maybe if you can, uh, based on the last 6 months that you've experienced and observed, what are some of the big things that you have seen in the snake year? And from that, how what have you learned, or how what takeaways can we receive from those observations to be best prepared for the next 6 months?
Okay. Um, so the big takeaway that I see in Snake Year is to hold your cards close to the vest. A lot of times people talk too much. They just talk to fill the space. They talk too much. They give away too much of the plan. It's better to keep the plan close to your vest and to hold your cards close and then play the card when it needs to be played. So I'm a spades player, so I can relate this to spades. Like if I am playing and it's crazy. Was that 2 years ago? Well, anyway, if I'm playing a game of spades and I'm playing against some real professionals, like I'm gonna keep it close to the vest. So like if I have a good hand, like if I have a good hand, I'm gonna keep it close to the vest. If I have a bad hand, I'm gonna be very, very honest with my partner. Listen, I don't got you. Like whatever you got is what you got. I know because you're the only one who knows how you can play your hand. So what I was thinking about was it was 2 years ago. I played a yes, not last Thanksgiving, but the Thanksgiving before last. I was playing spades with somebody. I never played spades with before, which is always dangerous in the black community to play cards with someone you never played with before. And we were playing against some people who are actually married, which was another big red flag. And I have a very different style of playing. Like, I know exactly how many books I can make. And as long as I'm focused on the books I say I can make, I'm going to make them. But if I get too distracted by the trash talking, then I'm going to make a mistake because I can like not count cards, but I can pay attention to the cards that have been played. And what people like to do when you're playing spades is they like to distract you by doing a bunch of trash talk so you lose track of what you're trying to do. So I was playing spades with this girl. I never played spades with her before. And I had a really good hand. I had 10 books in my hand. Easy, easy, easy. But I made a mistake because while we were playing cards, I was watching the interaction between the couple because I knew they were cheating, but it was I couldn't figure out how they were cheating because that's another thing. Like you always know people are cheating, you got to figure out how they're cheating. I couldn't figure out how they were cheating. So I was so busy focused on how they were cheating that I missed that one of the cards wasn't played, and one of the books that I should have had that was a guaranteed book got wiped out. And so I couldn't make 10 anymore. I only made 9. My partner only made 2, maybe 3, but we bid 13. So we lost the game. The girl was mad at me, and she probably will never speak to me again because this is how spades go. So what I learned from that, and I'm applying it this year, is listen, I'm not focused on what anybody else is talking about. I don't care what these, like, I haven't seen so many of these spiritualists because I'm not even looking at their pages right now. I unfollowed a bunch of spiritualists since this year started, a bunch of people who talk about stuff that are just in energy that's not, it doesn't go with my energy. Instead of paying attention, because in, what's the year before this was Sky Dragon. Okay, in the Dragon year, I was paying a lot of attention to what spiritualists were saying. I was documenting, recording experiences, trying to find similarities and all of that. The Sky Dragon, that which is year 5, yeah, Sky Dragon, which is year 5, is the last year of the heavenly animals. Then when you start with the snake, you get into the earthly animals, the real physical things. And so, or the terrestrial animals, like they called it in a thing. And so when you get into the terrestrial animals, that means you got to be paying attention, because now you're taking what you learned from the first 5 years of the cycle, you have to start applying it to the next 6 years of the cycle, or 7, whatever it is. You have to start applying it. And so I stopped paying attention to what these spiritualists were talking about. I stopped looking to them. I stopped asking questions. I stopped supporting them. I stopped giving them my energy. I just removed my energy because I needed to take a step back. And we know this because this toll booth show haven't happened in like 2 months. We had to take a break. We had to take a step back and assess the situation. So that's what I've been doing. I've been taking a step back and assessing the situation. Now, if all of my income came from making videos for YouTube, selling products to clients, or whatever, if that was how I made my income, I would not be able to do this. So you also have to understand that your life has to be diverse. You have to be, there's a term that I use for this time period we're coming in, is fixed but flexible. You have to be fixed, meaning you have to have your standards. Look, I have to live like this. I need to pay my bills. I have to eat like this. That's the fixed part. The flexible part is how exactly it works together. So if that means for a while you get a job that you wouldn't normally get, that's cool. If it means for a while you might cut back on this, cut back on that, add more of this, add more of that, whatever the case may be, you're flexible enough to do whatever it takes to maintain your standards. That's the energy of this year, and also like the next, however, until we get back to Saturn and Neptune entering Aries at 0 degrees together again, which hasn't happened in over 6,000 years, this is going to be the energy for the next 6,000 years. Fixed but flexible. It's a 7-day cycle, okay? Every 7 days, you're going to cycle through the energy. So you know that. But how that energy is going to show up for every 7 days, it might be different. Every seventh day is a Sabbath, but there's multiple 7 days. So which one is the Sabbath that you observe? Or do you observe all the Sabbaths? It really depends. Different Sabbaths have different observations. That's pretty much the conclusion I've come to. And eventually we could talk about that. But it really depends on if you're talking about an emotional Sabbath, if you're talking about a physical Sabbath, you're talking about a spiritual Sabbath. All of these are very different and they show up differently, and so there's different things that you have to do. And so if you keep these things in mind of being fixed and flexible, then you will be successful in this snake year. Moving forward, this is what you have to do: take a step back, withdraw your energy, observe and see what people are doing. See if your ideas that you had from the first 5 years even make sense now. So we're talking about 5 years ago was 2021. Go back to 2021, or 2020, really. Yeah, 2020, because this is the 6th year. Go back to 2020. See what you were doing at that time. See if those ideas still make sense. Some of them might. Some of them won't. But you have to go back to that time because that is what this energy is demanding. It's demanding that you review the last 6 years, see if it was good, see if it was bad, see where you want to adjust. Because when we move into the horse year, that's when we're going to start running. So this the year of the snake is always a year of reflection. Now, it doesn't mean you don't take action because you still have to provide for yourself. You still have to eat, but you're not going to do the biggest idea you have. You're going to do the smaller ideas. You're not going to take the biggest risk. You're going to take the smallest risk that you can take and still survive, basically. And so if you approach this the rest of the year with this energy, you will be successful. Look at Trump. Like, he's a perfect example. He took the biggest risk that he could take that was reasonable with the tariffs, and now he see that didn't work. He didn't go the very risky route of doing it a different way, which would have been much more riskier. He went a very safe route, a very normal route, a very common route. And that's fine. And so if you and that's another thing, what you should be doing is watching how the successful people move, the people who are literally successful, not the ones who are being propped up, but the ones who are literally making headway, like a Elon Musk. Like, don't look at Gates and the rest of them, they're not successful. Look at what Elon is doing. Find whoever that is in your field of interest and see how they're moving. And if they are moving in a way that is not in alignment with what I'm saying, then they are not really in charge of their energy. They're a peasant. That's another thing. Now, for sure, I can identify who is a government agent, a peasant, who is a worker, who is a laborer, and who is the king. There's no doubt about it who the laborers and who the kings are. Like, it's very, very evident who is in which energy. No matter how hard they try to hide it, if you are working like a dog right now, you're clearly in peasant energy. If you are off to the races, you're a racehorse. I mean, that's fine if you want to be a racehorse. I don't want to be a racehorse. So don't put me in that category. And maybe that's a category you want to be in. I'm not judging you. Anybody can do whatever they want. But what I am saying is that's what's happening. And so you have to be very cognizant of your energy. A lot of people don't know their energy. So that's another thing. Figure your energy out. Like, the reason why I know my energy is because I created the readings, the My Enchanting and the Enchanting by Scales. And so once I was able to put my energy into the big frame of like scales, like the different scales of energy, it made it much easier to see which energy was mine and which energy wasn't mine. And I was able to put myself into context, because that's what, like, when you understand the time, you can put yourself in a context. But if you don't understand the time, you can't put yourself in a context, and you're trying to figure out, well, why am I doing this? Like, what is going on? And you really don't know, especially if you are regurgitating what someone in the media is saying, because a lot of times it's not even your original idea. You heard someone say it and you're just regurgitating it without even thinking about it, and that is like not good. You have to think about why you're saying things. You can't just regurgitate what other people are saying. I don't recommend that. And so that's another like part of this cycle. You have to do what it takes to actually think through what is going on, and not just, again, act like you just know everything, because that's another thing. The snake is not out here acting like he knows anything. The snake, especially this snake, is at the bottom of the food chain. It is at the very bottom. It can't constrict like a real boa. It can't, so it doesn't go after prey that are bigger than itself. It just doesn't. It goes after the prey that are reasonable. And that's another word I think for snake year is be reasonable. Don't be unreasonable. I'm a very unreasonable person. Like, I have had to really bring it down to what is reasonable. And then I have to do my best to always stay reasonable and not to get unreasonable. It's very, very difficult for someone like me to be reasonable, but I can do it if I try. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to be reasonable. You have to keep it down to earth, obviously. And it doesn't mean that you're not also unreasonable, but there's different levels to being reasonable. Like it's it for some people. it's reasonable to have big dreams. That because that's in your energy to dream big. Or like for example, in my chart, because of where my Jupiter is, I have to live in a big house. So any like any idea I have about living in a house that doesn't include a big house, I know is unreasonable for me because my energy says you have to live in a big house. Like you just have to. So, but that's my energy. If your energy is like you have to drive a nice car, because there's people who have that energy, especially if you have something at 25 degrees of Virgo, your energy is, hey, I have to have a nice car. So if you're doing anything but getting a nice car, you're being unreasonable. You're being unreasonable. So you have to figure out what it takes to have what you want be as conservative as possible. So I was just telling somebody the other day, like the car that I want is like $80,000. But let's say I can get a car that's comparable for 50,000, right? I still need at least another 50,000 so that I have enough money to pay insurance for a whole year, 2 years, 3 years maybe, and I'm able to kind of keep up on the maintenance, get some tires ready to go to switch out, that kind of thing. It's gonna take me at least $100,000. There's no way I can get. I'm not even going to buy a car unless I have $100,000 to do this because I know that's what it's going to take. Am I being unreasonable? No, I have something at 25 degrees of Virgo, which means I have to have a nice car and it has to be things have to be done in a certain way. And so until I have what I need, it makes no sense to move. Same thing with a house. Like there's a house that I want. It's about $750,000. That's just the house that I want. There's no, way to get around that unless for some reason the house has come down or whatever. So that's just the way that it is. And so am I going to be unreasonable and try to just move somewhere because it's easy and I don't like where I am and all of that? No, it doesn't make sense because then that means as soon as the opportunity does become available, I have to move again. Who wants to be moving 3, 4, 5 times in 5 years? Like this is what people don't think about when they're looking at this energy. Like you have to do it when it makes sense. You don't want to be overdoing it just because like, oh, this feels like the right time, this opportunity came up. Because what happens is just like with the wood snake, right? We're talking about the wood snake. A rodent might come along that's too big for him. So what would happen? He would exude all his energy trying to consume this rodent, and he wouldn't be able to, and then he would have wasted all that energy trying to consume. His eyes was too big for his stomach, and so you can't do stuff like that. It's not the year for that. And everyone is saying that it is, and which makes it really egregious, like I mentioned, that they're talking about this stuff like that because this is the opposite of what you should be doing. So basically what I'm saying is whatever you see the masses doing, do the opposite. That that's pretty much going to be your rules for success for snake year. Like do the opposite of what the masses are doing. If the masses are freaking out about tariffs, you should probably not freak out about tariffs. You must say, oh, okay, I see the propaganda being played because they're a bunch of peasants. And never respond how the peasants respond in general. That goes for any year. However, the peasants are responding, never do what they do. Like, just make it your rule of if everybody is saying X, I'm going to do Y. Be the one who always goes on a different path. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But guess what? You are always going to be on the path of the king because the path of the king is lonely. And it's only one king at a time in a particular area. You don't share kingdoms with a bunch of kings. It doesn't work like that. So no matter what, as long as you're taking your own individual path, you will always be the king of your kingdom. And your kingdom is yourself because the kingdom is within yourself. It says that. And so once you understand that as a literal metaphysical concept, then your life will also just get easier.
Beautiful. Yeah, that was, wonderful. I love, all of it, but the one that stood out was like, the take the small risk, the small portions, like, it's like because, yeah, the wood snake, it's not the biggest snake, it's not the scariest snake, and it eats what it can, and that's not to say, obviously, like, we're not doing big things this year because we are doing big
Right.
things this year. But it's more that like it's like, look at your surrounding. There's so much food around you. Eat that.
Right.
Don't try to
Right.
be like going beyond what is around you. And I think like that's what people were beginning to get into. And then at this midpoint with the whole horse energy, it's like, no, I gotta be looking at the big thing. And it's like, and I think this is kind of because uh the whole shedding of the skin, because that's whenever I think of the snake, I think of like the shedding of the skin. The whole idea of the shedding of the skin when it comes to a snake is like it's a very energetically intense experience. And I
Right.
think for a lot of us what we're undergoing is like we're undergoing significant elevation, significant leveling up. And as a result, like, how can you undertake these risky, massive, let's say, operations of any type, um, if we're undergoing already a significant level up? That's the
Right.
resources are going to be strained. Like the capable, like it's just it's gonna require too much energy that is already being heavily utilized through your own personal elevation and empowerment. So by really just focusing on the small risks, the small portions, like what that wood snake is able to consume, you are able to provide subsistence for yourself to keep the energy going when it comes to your leveling up. Right now, because everyone thinks it's the horse year, they're all gonna go and run off and do big things. At least they're gonna think that they're gonna be doing big things. There is gonna be um, a temptation to follow that. But if we can resist that temptation and keep going within, keep doing that work, keep just focusing on doing that inner growth, because that inner growth, I think in many ways, like it's not sexy, at least from the outsider's perspective. It's not sexy. It's not the big portions. Like I think that really is the prey in terms of like the small things that we're able to eat. It's within. No
Right.
one's going to see it. No one's going to be like, wow, Sophia, look at you doing the inner work, congratulations. No one's going to, your inner work is not going to go viral. It's all within. but
Right.
but that is like, that's the most important thing in preparation for the horse year, because once the horse year goes, yeah, everyone's going to see you. Everyone's gonna see how fast you're gonna be flying.
Right.
Everyone's gonna see your momentum. They're gonna want to be running with you with the group of your horses. But that's not the time right now. The time right now is to go even deeper within and really it's almost kind of like it's like a simmering. There's like an
Right.
energetic simmering of sorts where like the simmering doesn't mean it's boiling, but
Right.
it's there, like it's warming up. It's like that inner energetic momentum is hitting in preparation for the horse year, when that's when it starts to really boil. That's
Right.
when it's just gonna explode.
Yeah, I agree. Like, because we've done the inner work, and again, this is like a transition year. Like a snake is it's a ground animal, but barely, because I think I saw in the thing that a lot of these snakes, the tropophids or whatever, they live underground. So it's it's like in a birth phase almost, right? Like the underground that's in the darkness, and they only come out of being underground basically to eat, and when it rains. And so when the abundance is so overwhelming, you have to just go out of your house and get it. Yeah, for sure. But sometimes the abundance is not that overwhelming, and you don't have to leave your house. You know what I mean? And you have to know the difference. Like when it rains, yeah, you go out and you dance in the rain. But if it's not raining, if the abundance isn't so evident that like you're tripping over it in the streets, then maybe just stay home, and just think about it like that.
Yeah, yes, yes, this is big. Yeah, and it's funny because I actually felt today specifically this idea of like, you gotta, maybe take like a social media break. Like that there
Right.
was this kind of calling for um Like, okay, you did what you had to do. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you did and you did it great publicly, right? Now, why don't you like take a break from social media? Like, why don't you kind
Right,
of and I think you mentioned that here where it was like you don't, keep your cards close, where it's like kind of just like, just start slowly almost like disappearing because I think the next 6 months, and obviously everyone's is going to be different, but what I feel personally for myself is the midpoint helps me to assess what I've been doing energetically with the snake here, and with what you're saying, like really understanding that wood snake, like is I gotta go back into that type of really embracing that energy because when that horse here hits, you're gonna be out. Like you're gonna be out and front center.
right.
Right? The wood snake is not the time for that. It's just not. It's
No,
just not. Now, of course, there's going to be situations because energy, it's not just the year energy that it's you have all sorts of energy. So yeah, it's okay to get attention. Like, there's times where you are going to get attention and where it makes sense to pop out. But overall, the overarching energy is like let everyone else pop out. Let everyone else as we say all the time, let them blow their load right now.
right, exactly.
So that when September hits, August 30th, August 31st hits, and that's the harvest season. All of that inner work that you've been doing, like let them play their cards, let them show their cards, let them go off as crazy, and you just watch, and you just watch, and you just watch, and you observe, and you keep doing your thing, you keep receiving your sustenance, because that's the thing. It's not a feast. Like it's not the wood snake's not just out here just fucking eating like crazy. No, the
No,
the wood snake is being very strategic about what it's eating, and it eats the proper portions. It's not, as you said, it's not trying to get the big, some big rabbit, and then now it gets stuck, and then it gets freaking killed, basically,
right.
because
Yeah,
now it's not able to move. Like the wood snake is very smart because it knows it's not the biggest animal in the jungle,
exactly.
and that's okay. Doesn't mean we're not. It just that's the phase that we're in. We're not the biggest animal in the jungle. But with the horse, everyone thinks that they're the big dog, that they got the big muscles, that they, like they can run fast. So let them flex, let them go crazy, and you keep being that wood snake. And by the time September rolls around, like all these people are going to be exhausted. And what are they going to be looking for? They're going to be looking for you to lead them, for you to tell them what to do as the horse. The horse
Right.
are they're a group. They're, they follow the group. So who's going to be the one telling the horses what to do? It's going to be you.
Well, and the horse is the biggest animal in the cycle. It is the big dog. So literally, if you are
Mm.
remain small, because the next animals are sheep, monkey, rooster, dog. That so it really is the biggest animal. It really
Wow.
is the big dog.
So you said, okay, so you said remain small, to be the big
Yeah,
to be the big dog.
yeah. So that when it's time for you to be the energetic big dog, you have all this reserved energy. Because what do snakes do? Reptiles reserve their energy. That's why when it gets cold outside, we just had all of this iguana meat down in South Florida
Yum.
because it got too no thank you. I'm not that adventurous. But all these iguanas, they when it gets cold, they freeze and they fall out the trees. So that's what happens. Like right now is a time to withhold your energy. And when they freeze, they don't die because as soon as it warms up again, they come back to life. They're just temporarily, basically, and that could be another thing that they're trying to do to us as well is like to freeze us out, right? To make it seem like, oh, well, no one wants you here, no one likes you, everyone hates you, so you should just die. You know what I mean? Like they could be like energetically trying to
Mm.
send us that energy.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you trying to send me that energy, but you don't know I'm already buried in the ground. So You're telling me to die is not. I'm already buried because again, this particular snake, it buries itself in the ground, so I'm already buried. So what is and why would I be afraid of death? Like at this point, like I'm just confused because you don't obviously understand the energy that we're in. Like we're in the energy of the death of the being in the ground, so that we can emerge as the new thing, the new creation, which is
Wow.
interesting because the dragon is like a heavenly entity. And then you have the heavenly entity being basically buried in the ground to emerge as the horse. Very interesting,
Mm.
like patterns there. Like energetic patterns is very, very interesting because the sky dragon and the snake are pretty similar. It's just one is in the heavens doing its thing and one is on the earth doing its thing, but their movements are very, very similar. So it's not noticeable in the years between dragon year and snake year. It's less noticeable. But the difference between being buried in the ground and being risen from the dead is extremely noticeable.
Yeah, 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 it's almost like it's like everyone right now is at least energetically, it would seem like with especially with people thinking it's the horse here, like they're all gonna be fighting for relevancy. They're all gonna be fighting for
Right,
influence. They're gonna be fighting for clout. They're gonna be fighting for status, money, whatever the fuck it is. They're gonna be fighting hard for it. And while we are remaining small, reserving the energy, eating just enough sustenance again because
right,
you're buried. You're buried. What like it's not the time to be eating whatever the fuck you want. I mean, okay, again, like right, it's not to go crazy, not to go to the extreme
right,
of oh, don't enjoy yourself. Yeah, of course, you live your life, but the energy is one of reserved energetic cultivation, really cultivating that energy. And it's almost what it's like let them all start the race because by the time the real horse year begins, people are gonna be desperate for your energy. Like
right,
they're gonna be like, I'm going mad with all this other crappy energy, all this shitty, distorted, misaligned energy. Where are you? where where are you? And then like a stallion, you come out with that long hair flowing and
right,
well brushed and manicured, and you got the muscles, and you're just whatever the horse does where it's like blows the air from its noses, like the nostrils,
right.
and
Yes,
everyone's gonna be jaw dropped wondering, "Where has this horse been?" And you
exactly.
just start taking off.
It's the most beautiful horse they ever seen. And again, the chestnut, the fire horse, is the most common horse on the planet. So we're talking about being the best of the most common. See, when you follow the energy properly, just like you said, you're not coming into the fire horse energy as, a regular dark colored, common colored horse. You're coming in and as a true fire red horse. You
Mm.
know, like and bright and glowing and beautiful and shining and majestic and all of that. But if you start now, you're coming in at the most basic, the most basic horse there is, honestly.
Wow, right. Yeah, and because it's gonna be obvious, because everyone's gonna be in their on their horses, everyone's gonna be a horse, that you like, it's gonna be undeniable that you're different. It's gonna be
Right,
undeniable that you are aligned, and I think this is like, this is a very big shift that is happening in terms of I think, this is the first time that a group of people are like, "You know what? Imma try this. Imma
right.
believe that it's still snake here. I'm gonna take the risk and Imma lay low," because that's a risk. That's a
Yeah,
risk.
oh yeah.
That's a risk to tell people, "No, yeah, just lay low, reserve your energy, chill out," while everybody out and about is just like, whether they're aware of it or not. Um, I mean, obviously, there's people that are more in tune with their energy, so they're gonna be forced, whether they're aware of that or not, to be more reserved. But a lot of people are just gonna be out and about, just this is the time for me to launch my business, for me to do this, for me to do that, to go out, while we are taking the initiative to be observant and reserved and watch and observe and not show our cards to anybody or anything, uh, to um, yeah, and so okay, so because there's a group doing this, because there's a group of people, when September hits, and especially that year, that horse year, like that's where I think there's going to be a massive shift. I think the shift is already happening internally, but the
Right.
physical external shift is going to be blatantly obvious that this group, this individual has something going on, and something going
Right.
on that is so blatantly obvious that every horse is looking at it saying, what is this? And I think it's interesting that this corresponds with 9/11, which
Yeah.
you've been talking about
Yeah.
that date being very important for the watchers.
Right, because 9/11 is the fourth first day of creation. Is the first day of creation. So it always or rather it's the fourth day. Says it turns out to be the fourth day. Let me just put it that way. So no, it's a very, very important energy. There's a lot of energy that flows on that day. And from year to year, sometimes it's the the first day of the year, depending on where the moon is, right? It just depends. But every year that energy on that day is very, very powerful. Now the elites had harnessed that energy to try to, I guess, take over the world, change the timeline, whatever it was, and they got slapped down. They have been able to take over a little bit, but they were utilizing the energy of, the people to basically push through, roll through a narrative that was in their best interest. And so the more we look into the energy of that day, because like I said, September in general is an important month because it's the beginning of our fiscal year. So that whole month is dedicated to setting up your fiscal house, getting your fiscal house in order so that you have your plan for the rest of the year. Like you spent like That's when you make your financial New Year's resolutions. That's when September is the year also, I mean, a month that you go back and you check with your spirit team. And that's the month that you say, okay, did you do your job? Did you do your job? Did you pull your weight? Did you pull your weight? And some of you all may recall in September of 2025, I was railing against these entities because they hadn't done what they were supposed to, and I was ready to throw them all in the trash, because I was just tired of it. It's like, no, no, no. I know how things are supposed to be done. You guys are not doing your job, and you're not fooling me. So something has to be done about that. And so, that's the whole part of that. So when you know, start to follow these things, you have access to more and more of this knowledge. Again, this is observed. This is not, oh, I forced myself to do this. I was planning it like this. No, no, no. I just waited to see what energy came up, and then I identified it like, oh, this energy is coming up. That energy is coming up. This may, be something I need to do. That is something I need to do, and when you approach life like that, observing instead of commanding or demanding, you just get a much different response from life and from the creator than you do if you're like forcing um, you know, things to happen. So that's my spiel on that.
Wonderful. Yes, yes. And that's, I think, the main download I got today was um moving away from commanding and forcing to just observe now. Now is the time to observe, fully observe. Whereas, I mean, really the last 6 months with the snake here, it was a lot of I was still observing, but it was like observe and then like go and get the prey. Observe, go
Right,
and get the prey. Now I think it's like I got more than enough prey. Like I'm full, I'm fat. Like I'm fat as
right,
fuck. And now I gotta observe. Like I gotta just go back, go into my little underground and like enjoy the calm before like the good storm, I guess.
Right.
Because
Oh, because
because
it's actually a storm is coming. That's for sure.
yeah.
A storm is coming.
Do you have any closing thoughts or anything to finish with?
I think just to stay on the theme, I'm not going to go too far in another direction because that's typically what I would do. But just to stay in the theme, like the whole concept is that this is all about energy. Energy is meant to be observed and documented, not to be commanded and demanded. And so if you observe the energy, you will clearly see this is not like we're in an eclipse portal. We have a conjunction that's happening that has not happened for 6,000 years. That's the jolt of energy that you feel coming in, not snakier or horsey or whatever they say it is. That's not it, And so people have to be more aware of the entirety of how the astrology works and not just focus in on these one little things. Like, it's much better to be well rounded in this stuff. And if you're not going to be well rounded, that's fine. Follow people who like. There's people who say that it's horsier that I don't get on. Like, there's, people who that's their culture, right? If they're Asian and that's their culture, I'm not gonna get in between them and their culture. I don't comment on those people because that's their actual culture, and they may have a cultural reason for doing that. So I'm just, annoyed at the people who that's not their culture and they're trying to tell everybody this is what you should do. No, really, you should follow what is relevant for your culture. And as far as the American culture is concerned, if you want to be successful within the American culture, you have to follow what the government does. You have to pay attention, you have to mimic, you have to mock what they're doing. Like, you have to be a part of that, and you can't walk away from what's in front of you just to say, well, I don't want to do that because I hate Trump, I hate Biden, I hate whatever. You can't do that. You have to still be a participant in your culture as an American. If you're not an American, then whatever your country's culture is, you have to put your energy to it, because if you withdraw your energy, then the positive entities that are looking to help, they don't have anything to or anyone to bounce that energy off of. So as it relates to snake year, right now we should be pulling our energy back. 2 3 years ago, we had started to tell people, pull your energy back, pull it back, pull it back. Now, when we get into horse year, I have a feeling that's when we'll be putting our energy up. That's when we're going to rise up. That's when the time will be. But since we're only halfway through snake year, if you haven't pulled your energy back, pull it back so you can see who is who, what is the low hanging fruit, what is the stuff that is easy to deal with, what is the stuff that is actually way bigger of a problem, and so you can't solve it. Like, you have to be clear on what all of these things are. You need to be able to see the playing field properly, because when you get to horse here and it's time to run, you don't want to be looking down trying to figure out where to run. You want to have done the work, laid the groundwork, so that the ground is clear for you to just run as long, as fast, and as strong as you want to. So the inner work that is done now is going to pay exceedingly great dividends come horse year.
Beautiful. I thought it was very interesting that Ivanka Trump, of all people, was promoting the horse year. So they're really kind
Crazy.
of pushing it in the Western America. I mean, I never used to see people talking about the horse year, at least like posting it as like an Instagram
No.
post. So I found that very interesting. And I think they mentioned that she was wearing all white or something, which
Oh gosh.
um but anyways, yeah, this is exciting, and I really like it because we're able to see this in real time. As you said, we're
Right.
observing the energy. So the energy doesn't lie. If we're truly at the midpoint of the snake here, we're gonna see it. It's gonna be felt. It's gonna be known. And I think instead of beating ourselves up, because a lot of us, especially those that are, if we're willing to listen to this, which is like completely contrary to what the spiritualists are saying, that means that we set ourselves to a very high standard of functioning. Like there's a very high level of performance that we're functioning under. And
Right.
the wood snake can be triggering because it's like, well, why am I not doing this? Why am I resting? Why am I not getting things done and this and that? And I think like this is a great time to really go within and one, love on oneself, but then two, like understand that when the horse year begins, it's gonna be on and popping.
Right.
So just rest, recharge, go within. Like don't play Mr. Big boy, big girl. And enjoy the calm before the storm because like things are maneuvering themselves for a very powerful snake here and for an even more, I mean, you can already see the momentum moving in this reality. Like you can
Right.
already see how a lot of these elites are just they're being outcasted. They're being sent away. They are the prey. We have
Right.
identified the prey, and because we're not showing our cards, the prey are being taken out. We're not even have to
Right.
do anything. The prey are just being taken out, and we just got to keep ourselves in that state of reserving the energy instead of like coming out saying, you know, um, we're the ones, even though I guess technically I already did that. But um, yeah, I think it's like it's funny because it's like, you know, uh, I released saying like, we're the ones, follow us, and then now it's gonna be silence. That's how I see it.
Right.
Like, it's just
Right.
gonna be like, "What happened? Where did you
Right.
go?" And it's like,
Right.
"Well, that I already said what I had to say. Wait for Horsear. Wait for when
Right.
the
Yeah.
Watchers show up."
Yeah. We. Because like I said, there is a big change coming, and people like the creator has to make himself known because these people are just being highly disrespectful to the planet, to the people on the planet. Something has to be done about that. And so as a result, there's a lot of people who are going to face an incredible amount of trauma and trouble as a result of unresolved karma. So this is the time like when you can resolve
Mm.
all of that karma, because once the horse year comes, you're going to be running, and some people will be running to their freedom, and some people will be running to their death. I mean, it's this, all of this energetic work. That's another thing. All of this energetic work is life or death. Like, people want to say that it's not, it's just, no, no, no. It's always life or death when you're dealing with energy. A one wrong energetic move can take you out. And so you have to move carefully. You don't get to not move. Like, just because it's life or death doesn't mean that you don't get to move. No, you still have to move. It's just you need to move understanding that it is life or death. Like, you can run yourself into a very terrible situation if you don't um do the things that are right. Which is why the easiest solution, like I tell everybody all the time, if you want to avoid all this stuff, you don't care about no horses, no snakes, or nothing else, just be a good person. Always do the best job you can. Always be the best person you can be. Treat every situation like you are a mandatory reporter and you are required to report abuse and stuff like that. Like, treat every situation like that. Show compassion to your neighbors. Help out the people you can. Take good care of yourself. If you just do those things, none of this stuff is even relevant. The reason why I know it is so that I can help people do the things that they should be doing anyway. Make it clear what those things are that they should be doing.
Wonderful. And yeah, I would definitely recommend following Sophia as well as um, looking to get a reading because she provides very in-depth readings. And as you said, like it's very important to know where you're standing and who you are and what your energy looks like now more than ever, especially in the snake year
Right.
to really understand like what are you, and by understanding what you are and what your energy is, you're able to more easily maneuver as well as really not be surprised when things show up because I think that's a lot of people can get surprised as they kind of start to see the inner work come about, but realizing that like there are no surprises. If it's surprising, like it's okay, but It's just because you've been exposed to something new. Um, and yeah, this was great. I think this was the really the spaces that people need to listen to if they if they're not aware of this new narrative, this new thesis. Really, it's a very it's a new this is a new narrative. So you're gonna see this is like how you invest in a narrative where it's like, okay, I'm willing to take a risk on this narrative that really nobody's talking about, nobody knows about. I'm going to apply it to my life, aka invest energy into it, because to believe that it's still snake here, that's investing a lot of energy into this narrative. And
Right,
as you invest into this narrative, like if it is aligned, it's going to start to really pay off, especially when horse year comes around. And you're going to see the difference in terms of the people that are investing in these other narratives and the people that are investing in the aligned narratives. And
right,
it's, I wouldn't be surprised if probably in the next 2 to 3 years, this is going to, I mean, this is going to be seismic. Once this narrative starts to really reach mainstream,
right.
this is gonna be insane. I mean, this is seismic in terms of what's gonna happen when this really starts to hit critical mass.
Right, when people want to stop being peasants. I mean, people have never been presented with an opportunity to not be a peasant. And that's what we're doing. If you're a member of the
Mm,
millennial kingdom, if you come over to our side, we're promising you wealth and abundance. Like, who wouldn't want wealth and abundance? If you want to be broke and poor, that's fine. Do you, boo? But like, some people want to be wealthy, abundant, happy, have free time, all of those things. Like, this is what people want.
mm,
And so when people find out they can have it, and all they got to do is observe the calendar, like once a year, like say, okay, it's the new year is happening after the Pisces full moon once a year, and that's it. I mean, that's the easiest. I mean, it's not more difficult than that. There's nothing more difficult than that. Like, it hurts your pride, right? If you're invested in the wrong narrative and have been so for years and years and years, but that's all. You're just missing your pride being hurt. So if you can sacrifice your pride, and just do the right thing, again, hear the message, do your own research, ask your own questions, come back to the table and say, you know what, those people, I think they're really trying to help us. They really believe in humanity, because a lot of people are following spiritualists who don't believe in humanity. And so, therefore, you're following people who really don't care if you live or die. And over here, we don't like that. We do care about humanity. We want humanity to make it. We're sacrificing everything so humanity can make it. And so, once people see that there are people like that who are willing to take these very, very public, very, very scary risk of being wrong publicly, and then having to come out and say, okay, I was wrong about this, I was right about that, but I got this wrong, I got that wrong, and then just move on. I mean, it should be a no-brainer, but I understand that people have to think about these things and really process them. So that's all we're saying. Think about it, process it, and see if it makes sense. If it does make sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't.
beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sophia. Thank you everyone for joining and look forward to the next one. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
All right, see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.